Everyone's having a good time Thursday. Who started their weekend now? Who's already celebrating the 4th of July now? Yeah, man. Yeah, 4th of July, right? Yeah. I love America. America's great, man. America's great, isn't it? Is it? It is, okay? Every city gets to be the murder capital of the world at least once. America's great. Too dark? All right, moving on. That's the great thing about America. That's why no other countries try to invade us. They know everybody's like, I'm ready to go. Like, that's the American attitude. We're waiting, ready to go.
So, it's pretty obvious why that joke didn't work. Maybe bringing up America's violence on a weekend where we celebrate America's violence wasn't the best idea. But it was just a thought that I wanted to see if I could say it. Just a thought that I wanted to throw out there. In fact, I think it was just a thought that I had driving to the gig and nothing more. Now, I, like most comics, could find multiple reasons why that joke didn't work. The show was so long and I was the last one up, or I said murder wrong. I didn't really inflect it like I wanted to. But, like I said in the video, I think the joke was just too dark. Also, it was around this time that I started to notice that across the country, people just didn't resonate with the whole America's great, right? Like they used to, even a year prior. But that's not what this video is about. In fact, I'm not gonna just leave you guys on that note. That's a discussion for a whole nother conversation. Let's get to the actual joke that I want to talk about. So I'm just gonna set you up with what the premise of the joke is. Why you shouldn't date a comedian. Enjoy.
I'm gonna try a new joke on you guys. Is that cool? I'm single. You think that, right? Because I seem like, oh yeah, that would be a reasonable type. He's a comedian making jokes, right? That's what you think. And you probably imagine that even if the sex is bad, at least I'll have like, oh, I didn't know, you know, whatever, right? Which is true. Actually, when the sex is bad, I always have a punchline ready to go. I'm thinking of it the whole time, like, oh shit, I know it's gonna be terrible. But when I get done, I'll be like, hey, it was Thanksgiving, whatever, right? But that's a thought, man. Like, you know, people think, oh, I want a guy with a sense of humor. Yeah, but you don't want this. Trust me, you don't. All right, because like comics, comedians, we're not, you know, just funny guys. You know, we're like life scientists. That's what I like to say. It makes my mom feel better, right? Like we take theories and we discredit them. That's what we do, right? We disprove them. Yeah, basically, but it's dumb theories. Like, you know, stuff like, oh, how many mushrooms you have to do, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like a theory like this, like, you know, what is the best advantage that Superman has, right? And some of you thinking right now, oh, you know, flight, super strength. One of you's thinking 45 words per minute. You're kind of right on that, right? Yeah, because he has a job as a reporter. You guys remember that? But I would say the best advantage that Superman has ever is that in the 1930s, he landed in middle America and looked like a white guy. That is the best advantage that he's ever had. He was an alien from another planet and he looks like a handsome white dude. If he was any other color, they'd be like, kill it, any other color. And that's what we do as comics, all right? That's what we do. I'm gonna tell you guys how I spent yesterday, okay? I woke up at 2 p.m., okay? Yeah. Woke up at 2 p.m., dressed in my Darkwing Duck t-shirt, got some cereal, and put on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2014. Yeah, I live like a homeschooled 8-year-old. That's what I do. And I was watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? Anybody seen the new movie?
Yeah!
Yeah, everybody here understands Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? You get it, right? They're ninjas, they eat pizza. You accept it all. For some reason, we all believe, like, yeah, that could happen. Put a little mutagen on them, and the turtles learn ninjutsu from a booklet. And we were just like, yeah, that makes sense. And that's what you gotta do to watch this movie. Just see that and be like, yeah, big rat, sure, it makes sense. All of it makes sense. And the only part that threw me off, all right, there's a scene in the movie about like almost towards the end where April O'Neil, right, the main character, calls up her friend, and her friend answers the phone and he's like, O'Neil, right? And then they cut back to April and she's in the sewer on a payphone. And I'm like, how good is that dude's caller ID? That he instantly knew from an awkward payphone number that it was April O'Neil. You know what I'm saying? And after that, I turned it off. I was like, I can't live in this world. I was done. I was like, you had me all the way with the turtles and the ninja and the kicking. I loved it all. That part, done. No, doesn't exist. to Facebook, right? And I put it on there. I put up the clip. You can actually see it on my Instagram if you follow me. I put up the clip, right? Right? And then somebody tried to argue with me. Now, this is why you don't want to date a comic, okay? Right? She was like, oh, that's not the weirdest part. The weirdest part is a payphone. I don't see those anymore. And I was like, you're wrong, okay? They're everywhere if you just go to poor places. Greyhound bus station. They're there, all right? That's all you gotta go to, okay? They're there. And that's the thing. I was like, no, it makes sense that they have a payphone in the sewer, all right? Donatello probably just stole one that nobody was using, and then hooked it, and that's how my mind works. This big, smart turtle hooked it up, found the right landline, boop, and just free calls forever. That's how it works. Because they need a way to call for pizza, right? They need to order pizza somehow, and then somebody out here is going to be like, well, who would deliver pizza to a sewer? We all know a pizza place that would deliver to a sewer, okay? Everybody here knows for the right money, that guy's not going to talk. He doesn't give a shit. Here you go. Give it a turtle. I'm going to walk away. I don't care. Bunch of furries living in the sewer. He doesn't care. And some of you are like, well, you know, maybe Donatello's smart enough to put the caller ID thing in there. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense, okay? Because they would have a scene in the movie explaining that. Because anytime something crazy in a movie happens, they have a scene that explains it, right? They would be like working on something. Donatello would be like, guys, when do you see the phone? Yeah, anybody you call, they'll know it's you. And then they'd be like, that's a dumb feature. And they move on. And then it comes back. No, that didn't happen, all right? And then, you know, and I can say all this, I'll be, okay, well, you know what? Money talks, pizza shows up, money talks. Why don't they get a cell phone? Here's the reason why. They don't have social security numbers. That's the only reason why. That's it. That's it. If turtles had social security numbers, trust me, T-Mobile would sign everybody up. You would get the pets and family plan. You want to talk to your pets? Get them a phone, right? It would immediately happen. Then they charge you $100, and then you didn't pay, $200 fucking overcharge, all right? They're waiting for that. They're like, your turtle forgot to pay. Now we're going to charge you more. So I posted this on Facebook as a comment from that one stupid, payphones don't exist, right? Paragraph. Because that's what I do with my time. I got one like, and I was like, that's all I need. I'm going to order some pizza and enjoy Pornhub. And that's what I did for the rest of the night. So now, if you're telling yourself, oh, it would be fun to date a funny guy, think about that. How much time I spent on a 3-second movie blooper. Right? Now imagine if we got into a real argument, how much time I would spend on shit like, where are we gonna go eat? You ask this every time, and we pick the same place. Just pick, right? You know what I'm saying? And then I go off or whatever, moving on. That's why I'm single.
Like I told the audience, I just wanted to see if that joke would work. Just wanted to try it out. To keep my creativity flowing, sometimes I'll just write out things that happen to me, and I'll do it on stage. Now, whether the joke works or not, I will usually just toss these away because I'm just not going to dedicate an entire bit or chunk or more time into these premises. It's like scribbling on the back of an envelope for most artists, or just going into a music studio and riffing and jamming and making up stupid jingles just to do it, or being like Kanye and releasing Poopity Scoop just for the hell of it. I just say these ideas. I pick out what I like from them and then I just move on. The only thing I actually kept from that entire chunk was the idea of life scientist. That's it. I used that in eventually what was the HBO special. Because I always have looked at stand-up as a science. Like I said, science is not about proving things. It's about disproving as much as you can around a theory to try to get to the truth as close as possible. Even scientists will admit that nothing is actual fact because it can all change depending on a new observation or a new discovery. So I loved my joke about Superman, but I really don't like jokes about race. I know how to write them, I know how to do them, I just don't want to be that guy on stage. In fact, for a decade of my career, I never said anything about race on stage just because I didn't want to. And then one day, I did talk about race. You know, it's just another muscle to work, and you have to constantly work all the muscles just to see what you can do with it. So why did I stop doing the joke? It's not that it didn't work, it got a laugh. It's just I had nothing more to it. that was all it was, just a quirky observation. I mean, we all honestly know why Superman was white, because that's just the way it was. The end. There's no need to dive further into that. And the comic book industry has done a lot since then to put more diversity inside of comics. So there was no need to keep pressing that issue. Also, since I look white, most people get confused on the intent of the joke. Some people will look at that and like, well, wait a minute, is he trying to say that he's better than us? Is he trying to be cool with us by knocking white people? Hey, he's that white guy that's knocking white people. I don't know how to feel about what he's telling us. And that's where the problem lies in a lot of jokes. People don't know how to feel because they haven't been told what to feel about what you're talking about. It's too conflicting for them, and it's definitely too conflicting for just a silly Superman joke. That's why comedy clubs are best dark, because nobody can see each other and they know that they're not being judged, they're not looking at each other's faces. They're very anonymous in a dark comedy club. And if we've learned anything about like fake profiles on the internet, people love being anonymous. They truly just become what they really are when they think, oh, nobody's gonna know that it's me. For the sake of comedy, I hope that one day people will just allow themselves to feel the way that they actually feel instead of trying to figure out how they think others are going to tell them that they should feel. But that's beyond me. I'm not going to break that barrier with a little Superman joke. So let's get to the heart of the entire chunk, which was the Ninja Turtles joke. Now, I think this actually happened that week, and that's why I wanted to talk about it. Everything in that joke is absolutely true. That all happened. I think I took the video down from Instagram because I just felt like it. But the comment that I got back, the paragraph that I wrote, me going through my head and picking apart the realities of it and what's not real and just creating this little argument that like I was setting up a case for the reality of Ninja Turtles and also why I didn't want to watch the movie. Disproving the whole idea of I'm just gonna let myself be in this world. But I wasn't just gonna go off into this rant. I mean, there are some comics that are great at that. I'm not one of those guys. I like to string everything along so that it feels like, even when I'm trying out jokes, my set feels like an entire chunk that was thought out. So I went under the guise of a relationship joke. So why didn't I continue with this joke? Well, because I actually don't like when a comedian talks about being a comedian. I have this belief that nobody cares to hear about a comedian's problems being a comic on stage until they're famous. Because generally people are just like, who cares? Who are you? Why are you complaining? I don't care. Just make me laugh. And if you stick with that rule, especially as a comic that's trying to get his name known, people don't want to hear you complain. They'll wait until you're Dave Chappelle and then they're like, oh, we know all about it, but we want to hear your point of view. But when you're not at that level, it's best to just, you know what, I'm just going to make you laugh. I'm going to take you away from your worries. Don't worry about it tonight. And then maybe later on in life, you'll want to know who I really am and what I really am about. And just like with anything else I've said, that's just my approach. That is not knocking anybody else's approach. If any other comic feels like they need to talk about themselves and their career and everything about it from day one, and if they can make people laugh, great, do it. I don't do that, and that's just how it is for me. And if you're one of the people right now that are like, what are you talking about, Nick? I love it when comics talk about themselves and their careers and stuff like that. I'm into it. Shut up. I don't care. All right? You're not the entire audience. You're one person. All right? I'm trying to entertain everybody from Texas to Montana to Florida to New York to California. I'm not just trying to stay in your living room. It's like discovering a magic trick. People don't really want to discover the magic. Sure, they want to try to figure it out. Sure, they probably want to disprove what you're doing. But if you're a good magician, they just want to be wowed. And if you're one of these unknown magicians that is like, you know what, I'm going to talk about the trick while I'm doing it the whole time so that you know how hard it was for me to get this together. If it's not part of the performance, people will look at you like, I don't care your personal struggle. If I wanted to hear about a magician's career and how he became what he was, I'll just wait till David Copperfield or David Blaine do a Q&A. There's a lot of David magicians out there for some reason. People want to hear about the struggle from people who are at the top. They don't want to hear about the struggle from people who are struggling. It just feels too real, okay? And if you're still like, well, no, I'm different. No, you're not. All right? And I'll tell you that because you are not going down to the central market and looking at a independent artist who's just playing a guitar, and you're not asking them, so, tell me about everything that's happening right now, what you've perceived about the music industry. You might ask them a few questions, hoping for the answers that you already have in your head, like, oh, they're going to tell me it's tough, and to be an artist, you just got to let things flow and things like that. But these artists know, well, I can't tell them everything that I've been through because they're going to be turned off, and I'm trying to sell a $10 CD even though nobody uses CDs anymore. So I will just go along with what they're saying. I'll humor them as much as I can. Hopefully they don't stop me from selling a CD to other people, which happens. Honestly, people that crowd the merch table and talk to artists and then ruin the sales for the artists from other people coming up, oh my God, that's the worst. I've always hated that. But that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother time. And the big reason that I just didn't keep this joke was because there was no major punchline. It wasn't really worth it to go through this entire Ninja Turtles moment just to have a punchline. And that's why you shouldn't date me. I've been able to write why you shouldn't date me jokes in so many other ways, whether it's like why you shouldn't date me, why you shouldn't date men, or whatever. I can write them all day. I also just didn't know what parts were gonna make people laugh. I mean, as you could see, I was working it out, and I even over-talked some of the punchlines, not realizing, oh, that's where people laughed. And I even went silent like a doofus waiting for a laugh. And I was also thrown out. I think there was people in the back that were with the comics that were trying to be supportive, so they were wooing and clapping at parts where they felt like they needed to clap or woo in order to keep the joke going, not knowing that it's like you actually ruined the rhythm for the audience, because now they're like, oh, was that a place to clap? And then it just kind of dissipated from there. You see how comedians can figure out a reason why a joke doesn't work? And is dissipated the right word for this? I'm not sure. Somebody put that in the comments if you're going to be helpful. But that just comes with the understanding of the joke and the timing and when to pause and when to inflect and how to try it out. You also have to understand your own performance. You have to understand your own delivery. And the only way to understand your delivery as a comedian is to deliver constantly, to just continuously try things out and see, can I do the big rant? Can I just talk about a little observation? Can I do a big relationship joke? And where would I hit? And how would I hit it? And what can I say to make it make sense? And does the idea of life scientist work? And is there any other way that I could use this? And maybe this idea about America, can I change that and put it in a way that people will understand it more? And you just pick apart little things and you take them and you move them on. And honestly, parts of both of these jokes just ended up in so many other jokes. It's kind of like there was that one myth that Tarantino actually wrote one screenplay that contained the storylines of Pulp Fiction and Jackie Brown and whatever else, and he just cut them all from there. That's what you do with jokes. You either A, try to figure out if you can deliver on a certain topic, or B, you try to figure out if you can find a new way to deliver a joke, or C, you're like, can I get through this explanation? Am I this type of comic? And you just work all those muscles so that you know yourself all the way around. And one of my main things about stand-up comedy, at least for me, is that I believe that all of stand-up comedy should be statements with exclamation points and not commas. There's a lot of people that talk in run-on sentences, and I believe that the best comics are just exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. They are hitting statement after statement after statement, and that's why they feel so strong. And then there's other guys that are just like, well, you know, and this and that, and it just comma, comma, comma. And I think if you're not good at that style, the audience is like, I have no idea what he's talking about. Remember, we're dealing with people that are drunk at a show. There's a weird energy there. There's other people they've seen, and those other people were probably performing their best. And then here I am trying out jokes, So there's a lot of things in this environment, in each night, in each club, in each audience that can change the delivery of a joke. And again, that just comes from the way I look at stand-up, the way I look at how things should be performed. I come from the school of thought of it is about the performance. And the final reason for just dropping this joke is because that movie, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 2014 version, was just not like a huge moment in our life, all right? It kind of came and went. So I knew that this was a topical joke that eventually will just kind of just dissolve, or does it dissipate? It's just going to disappear, and that's just how you have to approach certain subjects. It wasn't like an earth-shattering moment where people are going to remember where they were when they saw the 2014 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think the only reason I brought it up was because it just hit Netflix. So I was like, okay, it exists on Netflix now. People are watching it now. So I'll tell my little part of it, and then I'll talk about the Facebook argument, and then I'm just not going to do this again. I'm not going to try to explain to a 7 p.m. crowd on a Sunday about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and caller ID and things like that. I'm not going to try to explain to a Friday late show, 10:30 p.m., when people are already tired and drunk and they're exhausted from work, so they're extra drunk, and explain to them why they shouldn't date me. It's just like, look, it existed for what it existed, and that's enough. And every comic understands this about topical jokes. They have a time limit. And the crazy thing about jokes is one day they could be killing, destroying, and then one day they just don't work. And if you talk to any comic, they will say, yeah, there was one day that a joke that I used to do just hammered it, and it was great, and I even performed it the same way, and it just stopped working. And there was no explanation for it. So you just move on. I mean, I wrote the joke because somebody tried to be funnier than me on my Facebook post, which I hate. I can't stand when people try to well, actually, did you see this? Don't do it. As you can see, I have broken down every part of the argument of what I am typing out, and with your stupid little comment about, well, where's a payphone? You just thought that. So you're going to put up your just thoughts against I've been driving for hours and analyzing this and thinking about it, and I wasted 3 hours just, oh, well, actually, if you look at the movie blooper, just don't. People always try to throw in their point that they've put nothing behind, because they're like, well, you know, the quirky thing, if you're good at it, you're good at it. But I'm going to be honest, most people are not good at it. And that's fine. Nobody's asking you to be a comic. If you want to, go ahead. But, you know, you're going to run into people like me that are like, well, actually, and then we just go off and waste 3 hours of our time just going off on this stupid thing. And look at this, like, I'm wasting more time. But I think it's fun to watch this joke. Obviously, I've had this footage for a while, and I'm just trying to put it out there because it's fun to me. And I took things away from this moment. You know, there will always be bloopers in movies. There will always be random arguments online with people throwing points. There will always be problems in relationships, and Superman will always be white. And just like science says, all of this can change, and that's why none of this is proven fact. So I just take these little pieces and I just put them somewhere else. Sometimes I disguise them, and I might do that again because it might come back up. Another movie might have a big blooper like this. They might change the idea of Superman. I might become a divorcee, and now I have a whole different perspective on why you should date me. And honestly, you know, the whole idea about don't date comics, look, there's problems with every type of man in every job. There's not one job that makes a solid man or woman, all right? So whatever the career type is, you just have to know what you're willing to put up with. And honestly, there are people that can't handle somebody who has a consistent sense of humor. It's a little overwhelming to some people because they're like, wow, everything's a joke. Well, that's how I handle things, and that's how most comics handle things. And that was our defense mode. That's our fighting stance that helped us get out of all of these other fights and things like that. That's what kept me from getting punched. You know, so that's why, well, you know, I kind of got punched because of it, but but that's why we love this, is because it is us. It's our martial art. It's our science. And now I'm just ranting. Now I'm just going off. The next step for any of these thoughts is there somewhere else I can put them? And maybe I'll find a way to put these thoughts somewhere else. You know, maybe I'll give them a little disguise, or maybe I'll just do the joke while wearing glasses, and people will be like, well, this is an interesting thought from a very intellectual, non-assuming man. All right, that's it. Bye, everybody.